Picture this. You're one of the richest people on Earth. Not nice house, rich, palaces, private jets, security teams, a life so insulated you can forget the public exists. And somewhere inside that insulation is a jewelry collection worth more than most people will earn in 10 lifetimes. Now imagine waking up and realizing $200 million of it is gone. No smashed windows, no masked men, no safe cracked in the night. It just vanishes, quietly, politely, almost like it was supposed to happen. And that's the real horror of today's story. One of the most brazen high-value thefts in modern times wasn't a heist. It was a belief event, because this isn't the plot of a Netflix drama. It's the alleged real-life nightmare connected to Sheikh Hamad bin Jassim bin Jaber Al Thani, better known as HBJ, a former Prime Minister of Qatar, a heavyweight in global finance, and someone whose name carries the kind of gravity that usually makes doors open and problems disappear. And yet, despite all the money, all the power, and all the protection, the breach didn't come from outside. It came from the one place money can't fully secure, the inner circle. Stick with me, because the twist isn't, how did someone break in? The twist is how they got the jewels handed to them, voluntarily. Who is HBJ? HBJ is not just a billionaire with expensive taste. He's a former Qatari Prime Minister and Foreign Minister, one of the most influential figures in the Gulf region over the past few decades. Powerful enough to operate at the level where diplomacy, capital, and geopolitics blur into one thing. His wealth is often estimated in the billions, and his lifestyle reflects it. International assets, major investments, elite networks, the kind of footprint that makes ordinary rich people look like amateurs. But here's the critical point. When you live at that altitude, security stops being about locks and cameras. Security becomes about people. Who has access? Who handles the valuables? Who manages the staff? Who can walk a package through a hallway without being questioned? Because the higher you go, the more your life runs on one fragile substance: trust. And this case is what happens when trust meets the wrong person at the wrong time: the assistant. According to court filings and reporting around the case, the story pivots around HBJ's longtime personal assistant, identified in legal documents as Magdalena. And I want you to understand what that role actually means. A billionaire's assistant isn't an admin. They're not scheduling dentist appointments. They're a gatekeeper, a traffic controller, a human access badge. They handle logistics across multiple properties, multiple countries, multiple staff teams. They know where things are stored. They know which safe belongs to which residence. They know how the machine runs, and that makes them incredibly valuable and incredibly vulnerable. Because if you can compromise the assistant, you don't need to defeat the security system. You just walk around it, and that's exactly what happened, allegedly. Not through hacking, not through force, but through something far older and far stranger: psychological manipulation. Enter Giovanni. The alleged fraudster in this case posed as a spiritual advisor, someone who presented himself as having special insight into fate, curses, danger, and protection. He used a name like Giovanni, marketed himself as a kind of psychic consultant, and according to prosecutors, he did what con artists have always done. He didn't steal first, he groomed first. He built trust gradually. He created emotional dependence. He introduced fear in controlled doses. He made himself the solution to a problem only he could see. And the problem, conveniently, was always urgent, always escalating, always just one ritual away from disaster. Here's the first curiosity loop. Why would a competent adult hand over 9-figure jewelry? Because of a curse. Because that's the mistake people make when they hear stories like this. They assume the target was stupid. But manipulation doesn't require stupidity. It requires stress, isolation, and a convincing storyteller who knows exactly where to press. And when you work in the inner sanctum of extreme wealth, your life is already built around secrecy, pressure, and fear of making a mistake. That's fertile ground. The curse mechanism. As the alleged story goes, the fraudster convinced the assistant that unseen forces were threatening her, and by extension, threatening her boss. He framed it like destiny, like danger, like doom closing in. And then came the hook. The only way to protect them both was through a specific series of rituals, cleansings, spiritual interventions, but not with candles and prayers, with something far more valuable, the jewelry. Because in the logic of these scams, the object isn't just valuable, it's symbolic. It becomes the vessel for the cleansing, the sacrifice, the energy anchor. And once you accept the premise, even slightly, you're not making normal decisions anymore. You're making decisions inside a belief system someone else wrote. So the assistant begins transferring pieces out, reportedly, over time. Not as theft, not as betrayal, as protection, as urgency, as saving. And that's the part that makes this story so disturbing, because there's no moment where someone in a ski mask vaults a gate. It's a slow leak, a controlled bleed, an extraction disguised as a rescue, the jewelry itself. This wasn't a few watches. We're talking a collection reportedly described as containing rare diamonds, emeralds, sapphires, rubies, bespoke pieces, high-value stones, luxury items that aren't just jewelry, they're portable wealth. Because at this level, jewelry is a financial instrument, it's liquidity you can carry, it's value you can move, it's an asset class that doesn't need a bank, and that's why it's so tempting to scammers. You don't need to move pallets of cash. You move a handful of stones and you've moved a fortune. The mistake, the public world. If you're going to steal $200 million in jewels, you have one problem. You need to turn it into money without getting caught. And this is where the alleged story begins to unravel. Because one of the pieces, a rare pink diamond according to reporting, surfaced in the most dangerous place possible, a major public auction pipeline. Think about the arrogance of that. This isn't Facebook Marketplace. This is the kind of platform where provenance matters, where eyes are everywhere, where objects have paper trails, and where high-value items attract attention by default. And at some point, authorities allegedly intervene and seize the stone before it can be sold, because once a stolen piece goes public, it creates a thread investigators can pull. And when you pull the thread, you don't just find a thief. You find the whole mechanism. The confession under pressure, the assistant reportedly admits what happened. She had been transferring the jewelry to this spiritual advisor for protection, and that's when the story changes genre. It stops being a theft case and becomes a case about coercion, because in court, prosecutors and experts begin framing the assistant not as the mastermind, but as someone who had been subjected to long-term psychological manipulation. And that matters because it explains the central paradox. How can a man with bodyguards, cameras, and layers of security lose $200 million in valuables without a single break-in? Because the break-in wasn't physical, it was mental. The scam didn't attack the mansion, it attacked the human being who had permission to move through it. Why this happens to the ultra-rich? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Extreme wealth creates a weird form of vulnerability. The richer you are, the more your life becomes compartmentalized. You don't deal with your own deliveries. You don't deal with your own staff. You don't deal with your own storage. You delegate. And delegation creates distance. Distance creates dependence. Dependence creates choke points, and the assistant is the biggest choke point of all. Because if you can compromise the person who manages the daily system, you can extract value without ever touching the perimeter. It's the oldest trick in security. Don't fight the wall. Walk through the door. The arrest and the aftermath. Eventually, authorities arrest the alleged fraudster. Assets are seized. Some pieces are recovered, according to reporting, but a large portion remains missing. Because once gems disappear into private networks, you don't just find them. They move through gray channels. They get broken down, reset, resold, hidden, traded, and even when a case becomes public, the most expensive part isn't always the stolen item. It's the realization that your fortress was breached by something you can't install a sensor for. Human trust. The real takeaway: people hear this story and laugh at the curse part. But that's the wrong reaction. The scary part isn't that someone believed something irrational. The scary part is that this kind of manipulation scales perfectly inside elite environments, because elite environments already run on secrecy, isolation, hierarchy, and fear of consequences. And in that pressure cooker, belief becomes a tool. Not because the victim is stupid, because the fraudster is patient, because the fraudster understands psychology, because the fraudster understands that fear is a lever, and if you pull it slowly, people don't notice they're moving until they're already off the cliff. So yes, $200 million in jewelry vanished, not through a heist, through a story that slipped past the cameras, past the gates, past the guards, and went straight through the inside. And that might be the most surreal part of all. So tell me, what's scarier? A burglar breaking in, or someone convincing your most trusted person to hand the vault over willingly? Drop your answer in the comments. And if you want more stories like this, where extreme wealth meets extreme vulnerability, subscribe because the next one is even darker.